All right, we're good to go. Ooh. We should be good now.
We're good to go now? I call the City of Escalon Planning Commission, April 15th, 2025 to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Commission Chair Steve Castellanos.
Here?
Commission Vice Chair Mike Dunbar.
Here.
Commissioner Barbara Willis has an excused absence. Commissioner Ronnie Van Dyke. Commissioner Jenny Thompson.
May I have a pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we did the roll call. We don't need to announce that all cell phones, pagers, and other devices need to be set on silence or vibrate unless you are an on-duty emergency responder.
When's the last time anyone saw a pager?
Yeah, really. Maybe we need to update that. Consent calendar, approval of the minutes. What happens if there's,
I mean, we're still allowed to approve them. We don't have to abstain. I watched the meeting and I read the minutes, so I feel comfortable voting on it.
we can do that, okay. Do I hear any comments, corrections?
No comments or corrections.
Do I hear anybody to approve the minutes as presented?
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
A second?
I am going to abstain, I was absent. Motion carried.
Okay, yeah.
You do what? Well, that's the first. Public hearing.
No public hearings tonight?
Okay, administrative matters, the 2024 Housing Element Annual Progress Report Review. May I have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. Jalen French here. First, we want to welcome new Commissioner Jennifer Thompson to the Planning Commission. We wanted to start off with an easy meeting for a new commissioner's first meeting. So we just have one item really in front of you, and then we will do some staff communications. So the item before you, it's really just an informational type report. You do not need to approve or anything like that. Every year, we are supposed to and have recently submitted an annual progress report to HCD on our housing element. This is a requirement per California Government Code, and so we do that. They've softened their approach. They've softened their stance on it needing to be approved by the governing body prior to submittal. We can now submit, but we still want to take it before the Planning Commission and the City Council as an FYI. It is a relatively straightforward document, especially in a community like Escalon that does not have a lot of activity. I mean, many jurisdictions will have a lot of line items on there. Relatively straightforward document, as I said, and it basically monitors the progress, not only against policies, but against numbers provided. So just to reset it, and we will also say, we are monitoring against the 5th cycle housing element programs and policies because we have not yet adopted the 6th cycle housing element. We are working on that. Many jurisdictions are working on that with HCD. It is becoming increasingly challenging because of the state's really focus on housing issues and everything they are trying to do. So we are comparing to fifth cycle, although we are technically in the years of the sixth cycle housing element, but we don't have an adopted housing element to compare it to. Just so you are aware, we do have a RHNA, a Regional Housing Needs Assessment number and allocation that we are provided to from the state and then through the COG. Our total unit count that we should accommodate in an 8-year period is 367. And that is made up of 90 very low income units, 56 low income units, 66 moderate income units, and then 155 above moderate income units. So we will track progress against that number. So that's all we have to report, but happy to answer any questions you may have. You don't have to have questions.
Do we have any progress or update on the 6th iteration and what status it's in of the housing element?
Yes, we have submitted, I think, three versions? Two versions to the state, and we are down to a few line items that we have questions about, concerns about, and they want to see happen. I won't share those yet, but we're getting down to really the final issues. And so we think it'll be before you, definitely during the summer, in which we will share and share all the details about that matter I just referenced. So I think, in the next 2 to 3 months, it should be before the Planning Commission and then the City Council for adoption.
Austin, you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
How many questions?
That was my question.
Great job, staff. Proud of you.
Okay. So the next item is matters presented from the audience. And is there anybody online?
Nobody online tonight.
Okay, so nobody in the audience, no one online. Next item was staff communications.
All right, we didn't want you to feel cheated. We do have a relatively robust staff communication for your short meeting. So we wanted to provide an update on a couple of the development projects moving forward, Murphy Ranch being the top of the list in no particular order. Murphy Ranch continues to work on their application. I guess subsequent to the community workshops, staff comments, and other input received, specifically pertaining to the traffic component of it. We have shared pretty candidly, we are working with Caltrans. We expect to have additional information from Caltrans in regards to the Brennan 120 intersection. Hopefully these two things dovetail a little bit. New information from Caltrans on the status of that intersection and their involvement in that perhaps, as well as the project proponent really taking a closer look at the traffic impacts the project has, not only to that intersection, but the surrounding neighborhoods and streets. So we also expect that project probably to come before the commission in the next couple to several months, probably during the summer, I would say. So that is the timeline on that. We'll pause maybe just if there are any questions, thoughts. Okay. The Jackson Avenue apartment project will go to council on Monday. You all know that the Planning Commission in its non-current format did recommend denying the project on a 2-to-1 vote. Council will heed that recommendation and make their own determination. They have broad availability to do that. It will go before council April 21st. We did hold a community workshop last Monday on April 7th to allow, like we did with the Murphy Ranch project, to allow the community to express their concerns, complaints, comments, or, liking of the project prior to the commission and council in this case, being in their deliberative meeting. We did hold that meeting. There was probably 12, 15 people in attendance. Probably half a dozen or so spoke, a couple in favor and 4 or 5 against, 4 against maybe, for various reasons. So that will go before council on the 21st, and then a second reading, because it really is a rezone and requires an ordinance. There will be a second reading on May 5th if the council chooses to move it forward.
A project that came before you guys approximately 2 years ago. This was Vineyard Square, which is the Marval Shopping Center. They had come for a parcel map. They wanted to separate the buildings from the parking lot, and that was approved. They were not able to final their map, have it recorded with the county prior to it expiring next month. So at the next meeting or the meeting after, they'll be before you for an extension.
And you've seen progress in that shopping center. There's a new UPS store. It's not open yet, but that's moving in. They're working on filling the last vacant pad there. They're also working on filling that empty lot in the middle of the center as well. So they're working on those things.
They give a reason why they weren't able to finish the final map in time?
They had some other projects going on. They own more than just this property here, so they had some other projects that they were trying to wrap up before finalizing this one. And then there are some complicated easements that have to do with the Oak Valley Bank, as far as sharing access with the driveways and things like that. So it is taking a little bit longer to wrap up.
Okay, I'll take 3 commissions and committees that we have on our list. So the Planning Commission does have 3 terms expiring. And so we, as we always do, we open it up for those expiring terms. We certainly welcome the existing members to reapply and then go through the process. If we receive more applications than seats potentially available, we'll go through an interview process. Well, actually, the council will decide. If you have, well, they'll probably decide to interview if you have more than the available seats. So those applications are due April 24th.
Which seats are up?
Mine, Barb's,
Yeah.
Mashnica and Van Dyke.
Van Dyke.
Are you reapplying, Steve?
I just gave it to Diana today. It took me 3 times to write it legibly. Thank you.
Right, the next committee that's been created, it's an Economic Development Committee. We're sharing with this with you, not so you can necessarily apply. I think we will have a 1 person per commission committee rule, but to share it broadly in the community. So we've created an Economic Development Committee. It is intended to be 3 members of the business community, somehow related to the business community, but doesn't necessarily have to be a business owner, a property owner, or an executive in a business, but somehow related to the business community, and then 2 city council members. And the intent is to coordinate between government and the business community to improve the overall economic well-being of the community. So that'll be a new committee formed. Applications are due April 21st. And then the third commission, and second new one formed, is council voted, I think last meeting, April 7th, to form a Measure P Advisory Committee. This will be, I believe, a 5-person committee members of the community, voting age and registered voters, who will advise the council on the needs of the community and where money should be spent. And so you have 5 council members. They can't, contact every member of the community. So this is a way to sort of get further into the community with a 5-person committee to advise again on what the priorities and needs are for the community and where those funds should be spent. It's not, as they adopted it, it's not an oversight committee, it's not an audit committee, it's more of a, these are the needs of the community type committee. And that has not gone out yet. That should go out relatively soon and probably sometime in May. Okay, questions, comments on those?
Question, so the 2 new committees, they will continue in existence for however long? I mean, it's kind of like the planning commission, you got the rec commission, same kind of concept?
Yeah, they won't be sort of standing committees or commissions like the planning commission and the rec commission, but they will. The Measure P is in perpetuity, so if they continue, if a council continues to want the committee, it could go on, sort of forever. And then economic development, again, as long as the council focuses on economic development, there can be an economic development committee, but those can also be changed by a council vote as well.
The terms on those?
The economic development committee will have some sort of staggered term. It's probably going to be 3 years or 4 years, and then you'll have a couple members who, so not everyone's term ends at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's same as with the Measure P committee. Okay. Some of this has come from the council strategic plan. So the council is, through staff's work, but now adopting a 2-year strategic plan. And we've lined up the 2-year process to align with council elections. So there may be new councils, they may have new ideas, and every 2 years is a good time to just check in. Yes, the path is correct, or no, let's, steer a little right, a little left, or let's about face, whatever it may be. So the council has adopted a strategic plan for the years 25, 26 that we will be implementing throughout those 2 years. They have chosen to focus on 4 strategic priorities: economic development, that's where the Economic Development Committee came from; fiscal stability, really looking at our budget, audits, reducing costs, growing revenues, right? Really looking at creating a fiscally stable community and government organization; public safety, and this in some way focuses on staff retention, officer retention, which was something that came from the Measure P campaign, I guess, and really focusing on, one, continuing to keep our community safe, but this sort of community feel about having officers that people know, and the officers know the community. But there's a few other things associated with public safety there, and then infrastructure. And the infrastructure is really focusing on the 2 major projects that we're working on: the wastewater treatment plant update, as well as the surface water connection project. So you will know we have an allocation of surface water, treated surface water at our disposal. We just yet don't have the conveyance system, the pipeline to connect to that water. It's about $15 million project, $14 million project right now. We're working on getting grants and other things to bridge the gap that we have right now. We are collecting money from the last rate study. We have about 10 million allocated in that rate study. We're about 7.5 of the way there. And we have some other money from sale of water to the city of Tracy. So we're, maybe in the $10 million range right now. So we want to bridge that gap to the $14 million project with some grants. some of the grants we applied for at the federal level, those have been paused a little bit right now because of new administration thoughts on, allocation of, funds and earmarks, those types of things. So we will kind of wait to see where that goes.
I have a question of the pipeline that is gonna come. Is it gonna be in existing roadways, or do we have to purchase easement rights through properties, or?
We have very little right-of-way acquisition needed. It'll mostly be in the McHenry right-of-way connecting to Dodds.
Okay.
Yeah, so very, very, very little right-of-way needed.
I'll piggyback off of that, Jalen. For the two, as Jalen mentioned, the two large projects, surface water and wastewater treatment plant, we also have a number of smaller capital improvement projects that we are striving to get done this year. We have a focus on school safety, projects around schools, children walking to school, parents picking up and dropping off. So our most recent project was the Dent Elementary School sidewalk project. Within 2 blocks of Dent, the city went in and installed sidewalk infrastructure, enhanced crossings. We're going to come back this next year and do some raised crossings, crossing the street. And then we're also going to move over into the El Portal area and look within a few blocks of El Portal for missing sidewalks, raised crossings, enhanced safety in that area.
I'll just touch on that. So a raised crosswalk is level with the top of the curb. It elevates kids, makes them a little more visible, and it slows traffic down as you're going over that hump when there's no one in the crosswalk, of course. So there's a couple of safety features associated with raised crosswalks.
Library repair project. Our Escalon library has a leaky roof, and so there's some water damage and the roof needs to be repaired. So we were able to work with Stockton, City of Stockton, who manages the San Joaquin County Library system, and that one here in Escalon, and they helped us with some funding, and so we're going to go in the next few months and get that repaired. An annual project we do at the treatment plant, in the industrial ponds, we have sludge removal. That's critical to keep that working effectively, so that project's coming up this summer. Adjacent to the Dent project, there's a section of Yosemite Avenue, Yosemite at Mitchell, headed east down to Elizabeth. There's the section of Yosemite that does not have sidewalk. And we also have a water line project planned there. They're going to get a water line replaced in Yosemite, and they're going to get the sidewalks installed. So that's coming up this summer. Pavement restoration project. This is an annual project we do. We go through a number of streets and crack seal. And then the following year, we come back and we slurry seal over the top of it. So it's kind of a 2-part project. So every year we crack seal some streets, and we slurry the streets that we crack sealed the previous year. So we're going to keep with that 2-step process. We have that going on this year. An exciting project, striping at BNSFN 120, so over by the Valero, where you hear vehicles turning off of the street onto the tracks and getting stuck over by Taco Bell. We are working with BNSF and Caltrans to be able to do some enhanced striping over the track area. What are those? Dots. There's enhanced safety features we're going to try to get in that area to help prevent vehicles from exiting onto the tracks. Main Street Improvement Project. This is a project that we have grant funding for through San Joaquin, through SJCOG. Started this a few years ago. There were some improvements in the park that were not desired, so we've gone through a redesign, but still retaining the sidewalk along Main Street Park, and it's going all the way down Main Street out to St. John. Increased intersections in the downtown area, 3rd Street and 4th Street. Enhancing ADA accessibility at the library and the parking lot, and new sidewalks around the library. So still a very good project.
I have a question on that.
Yeah,
How many trees are we gonna lose on the park side with the sidewalk?
I don't think we're removing,
None? Okay, because right now, you got a big truck that's parked there. It sticks way out in the street. So where's the sidewalk gonna go? It's gonna go from the existing curb inward, and it's gonna save all the trees? Great, okay.
we have a sewer lift station project over in the La Mesa area. So we did one off of First Street, First and Kerrigan this last year. I don't know if maybe you noticed the construction happening at that time. We're going to be doing a similar project over in the La Mesa area. Continuing the Vintage Estates street and water line project. So we did Valdepena last year. We'll be moving on to Zinfandel Street this year, street and water line. We'll be improving some water valves, some storm generators throughout the city, and then a street reconstruction project over in the Roosevelt, Center, Weiss, Blixt area. These streets don't have sidewalks, storm drainage, there's no gutter. It just kind of the street ends into dirt and gravel. So we'll be doing some reconstruction in those areas. Busy year.
That street needs it.
So then the last item on our update list here is the Liberty Business Park plan area fee. This is moving forward. There's been some question. The commission made a recommendation onto the city council. City council wants a bit more information as it pertains to the cost and the facilities that are being improved with the plan area fee. I know you know, but just to reset it, developing in a specific plan area, which is broader than any single development, is different than a single development. In a single development, that developer is responsible for all the infrastructure within the project site. In a specific plan area, a 20-acre development can't pay for 180 acres worth of infrastructure. So we trying to create, which was really outlined in the specific plan adopted in '07, a fee that goes towards the infrastructure based on the size of your project and the use of your project. So we are working out the details of that, and that should come before the council again in the next couple of months as we iron out some of the details. There was a bit of a challenge. Obviously, we took a 2007 plan and some of the infrastructure associated with that and some of the costs associated with that, and kind of pulled it forward 17 years into 2024. And there was some bumps and bruises along the way, but we expect the council to consider it. I'm not saying they'll adopt it or what, but consider it here in the next couple of months. And then, if that's what the council so chooses and the development community so chooses, you could start to see more development out there once everything's kind of settled with the logistical aspects of it.
Why do you think we might see more development out there?
One of the reasons that I think developers would hesitate on there is because the infrastructure is not extended. If we can iron out that the infrastructure will be extended at the timeline and there starts to be fees collected for the extension of infrastructure, whether the current developer out there does it with his deferred development agreement, deferred utility agreement, or whether it's funded in another manner, I think that could be a catalyst for future development. But what we also see is you see one development and then others go, okay, we can do it too.
Get some synergy going.
Yeah. That was all that we have on our list.
I have a question.
Okay.
Right now, Murphy Ranch is not in the city limits, correct?
Correct.
If it moves forward, we would then have city limits on both sides of Highway 120, correct?
on north-south side of 120 on the east side of Brennan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thought is, if that happens, can we post a speed limit sign on the east of Brennan, reducing the speed of people coming into town? And opposite, maybe reinforce what the speed limit is, because a lot of people go through that stoplight and accelerate heading west. So some way we could, keep the speed limit at a reasonable speed until they pass Brennan Avenue.
Yeah. Yeah, speed limits are governed by a process where you have to survey them and all of that, But I think your overall point is, can we control speeds in that area, especially coming into town? Leaving town, maybe not as big a deal, but especially coming into town. So any intersection improvement done at that location, of course, will help, whether it's a signal or a roundabout, which is being considered by Caltrans, or at least being contemplated by Caltrans. So any traffic control there would help that, certainly. But that continues to be an issue we get comments on. So we will think about ways that we can try to slow speeds. Now, we have to remember that it is a state highway. It is an expressway. The intent of expressways, not necessarily through small towns, but this happens with the state highway system that goes through towns like this. Expressways are intended to move traffic, right? To get people. So we have just a natural conflict there, right? Between slowing traffic down through a city and really having it be the expressway that it's intended to be. What I'm saying is it's not an easy, straightforward answer. There's things that we could do in residential streets that we can't obviously do on this street. So we will have to give that further thought as to what can be done. And we're starting to contemplate a couple of options. We'll see if they're viable or if they work.
I know that Highway 12 between I-5 and Rio Vista, they got a roundabout through there that, a lot of major trucks have to go around it. And then if you go, 156 between where 152 connects with 156 and to 101, there are two really big roundabouts there, and that's a state highway, just like Highway 120 is.
Yeah.
My concern is that you got railroad tracks on the south side.
Yeah, it's definitely early days. I want to say it early and often so people know if it starts to be contemplated in earnest that, it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Yes, there are challenges. The railroad is a challenge. It's narrower right away there. There's some challenges. But I will say I'm not advocating for a roundabout. I will just speak as a planner. Roundabout can be a very good thing in that location. One, it will naturally slow speeds. No matter if you are all greens, right, so to speak, or not, you are slowing down because of the curve versus a stop sign. People get frustrated, or stoplight. People get frustrated by stop signs. They zoom in and out of them. And there's no unnecessary stoppage. You could hit a red light with no one around, right? So there's one thing. It'll naturally slow speeds. It's a little more efficient in terms of moving traffic. But maybe the biggest thing that I think about is it's now an entry monumentation, a de facto entry monumentation into the community. It can be landscaped, it can be beautiful, but what you're saying, you're coming from, right, very rural parts of the county into a city. This is a now very evident signal that you are entering a new place. You're entering a city, and hopefully coming off that roundabout, when you've already naturally slowed, you'll slow more because you see the more urban environment. That's the hope.
mentioned that you were hopeful that Caltrans and the developer can bring forward their plans. I think you used the term dovetail. What's the chances of that really happening?
I think strong.
Strong?
Yeah.
Because I mean, to me, that is a solution at 120 in Brennan is paramount to determining the feasibility of that development.
Yeah.
So it's,
We have received indication that it's a strong chance that those coincide or alongside each other, but you never know. Caltrans is a very, very big organization. This is out of the district level. This is into the headquarters level. I mean, that is a big organization. So we will be hopeful.
what caused it to get elevated? I mean, it's almost impossible to get, Caltrans is second only to the railroad in getting things moved along. They move at their own speed. What caused movement?
Community outcry, county supervisors involved, state legislators involved, just, it's been we're punching above our weight probably in terms of
Okay.
what we were able to do.
Well, and also when we had the joint meeting, city council and the planning commission, there was a representative from Caltrans sitting in the audience,
I saw it.
which is, I have not seen that before. That could be a positive.
Wondered.
Any other
That's all we could think of.
communication?
Diana's got one more thing.
I also want to say welcome to our new planning commissioner, Jenny.
Thanks, Diana.
Welcome aboard.
Commissioner communication.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for other projects coming forward. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Nothing for me. I'm good.
I get used to looking over instead of over here.
Right. On the other side, Steve.
Yeah, I know, that's really good. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Question, the meat market, is that still working through the process?
Yeah, so they have submitted construction plans. They are going through the plan review process, so that can take some iterations of review and updates. So it is in process.
Okay, any other anything else pending that we looked at?
Countrywood Cottages is wrapping up their plan review.
Good.
And that's the senior living community east of McDonald's. Christian Reformed Church had come to you to convert their parsonage to an office, so that is under construction.
Brayton's under construction.
Brayton is under construction as well, over off of Second.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Has there been any additional talk about the senior facility that we heard discussion of out by the golf course?
No, I think council has more set their sights on using that 18 acres for recreational purposes
Oh.
and not as much for senior housing opportunities. But that doesn't mean we can't explore senior housing opportunities in other locations.
I have no communications. So we adjourn the meeting? Meeting adjourned.
Okay.